Hey everyone, welcome back to Alter Egos. It's Glenn here with a quick update with the podcast. So this is just an additional episode that we recorded a week or so ago, and it features a special guest from the Side Scheme podcast, Bananacrapshoot. And really, it's just all about our recent kind of exploration with two-handed solo and our journey there. We've seen a lot of Facebook comments and different Discord discussions around the concept, and so we wanted to just dive a bit deeper into that this week. The reason it's a bonus episode really is just we want to get all this content out before the Rise of Red Skull launches so that there's sort of a clear refresh point for our podcast, but we didn't want to leave things on the cutting floor, so to speak. So yeah, it was fantastic to talk with Josh this week, and we hope you'll all enjoy the episode, and thank you for listening. And yeah, you should check out the Side Scheme if you want more content and some great designer interviews. So thank you again to Josh from the Side Scheme. Enjoy the episode. Well, welcome back everyone to Alter Egos, a podcast all about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. I'm your host Glenn, and with you this week is another special guest from another exceptional podcast in the community, the Side Scheme host, Bananacrapshoot. How you going, Josh?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. This fine winter's midday for me here. You were telling me there was about 30 degrees Celsius where you were during the day. So I'm a bit jealous of the weather you're getting at the moment.
And it's summertime here, so not you are way in the future compared to me.
yeah. I'm always just that one step ahead, so to speak, in terms of the time. Yeah, so it's great to have you along on the cast. Do you want to just tell everyone a little bit about the Side Scheme before we move on?
Sure. So the Side Scheme is a podcast that me and my co-host Tommy of Titan do. We just talk about general stuff about the game, and then we do articles 1 to 3 times a week, depending on the week. So we're trying to help out the community any way we can.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing maybe we should note is just that you guys seem to run a very successful draft league for the game. Just want to tell a little bit about what's been happening this season with that, and when people can expect the next season.
Yeah, sure. So the draft league, it started out as was Tommy's brainchild for to grow the local community, and then when the COVID lockdowns happened, we kind of shifted focus to growing our own small community and our small Discord. So we run the draft leagues through there. This current season, this is season 4, is a salary cap version. So we gave each aspect a point value, and each hero got a point value, and then you could spend up to 400 points. And then we played 3 games of Heroic Rhino, and then it was Expert Claw and Expert Ultron, and then there was a tiebreaker game that's happening this week, and tonight is the deadline for it, and that is Expert Claw with the Kree Fnatic modular set. So I think we had 4 people that were 3-0 playing that. So we'll find out who wins this weekend. Just to say, the next one we're going to start after the Red Skull box comes out. That way we can switch up the scenarios.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I was just going to ask. Is so you're gonna have a new season once the new campaign box comes out, and that will be really exciting to see what you guys do there. Did you feel like the salary cap really added to the experience, or are you gonna shake it up a bit in that regard as well?
I think we're probably going to shake up the format again. I don't know if we'll go back to doing a draft, because doing the draft in the Discord is fun because everybody always enters their picks with gifts. So it's always really fun, waiting for the next gift to see what's happening. I mean, it's just a fun time doing the draft. So I imagine we'll go back to a draft. The one idea we had was doing a campaign draft where you're going to play through the campaign. So you pick one of the 2 heroes in the box, and then we'll draft for the other hero that you use in a solo 2-handed environment.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. So yeah, I can't wait to see what comes of that. And I hope as many people as possible can get engaged with that. I guess, you brought up, a little bit about the topic we're going to talk about today, which is I thought it would be great to sit down with someone that's been experimenting with two-handed solo a bit more and just talk about how throughout lockdown and I guess the journey of a solo player with Marvel Champions. What's been happening with the evolution of that, and I guess how yourself and myself have found what two-handed has done for our experience, and just kind of compare it to, I guess, the normal solo experience. So do you want to just talk about when you switched over from one-handed to two-handed and how you found that so far?
Sure. So when the game first came out, like my wife's not a real big gamer, so like I played with her once, and but I was playing mostly true solo, one on one, which is a totally valid gameplay experience, and it's also thematic, one on one fights with villains. But I don't know, it just seemed really swingy and inconsistent. So probably, I don't know, probably about January, I started playing more two handed. It might have been December around when Cap came out, playing more two handed, and it just feels like a more balanced and consistent play experience. And like I always play two handed now, just because we'll get into more of it. But yeah, so a couple months playing two handed, and I just think it's a more fun experience for me.
Yeah, and I guess for my journey, I played solo probably a lot longer than you did in terms of like just the true one-handed solo. Given my schedule outside of the game, I just didn't really feel like I had the extra time, and it felt like if I played one-handed, I could get more games in and mess around with different things. But I personally reached a point where I found the deck building was interesting, but also very restrictive and felt constrained, because you have to answer certain puzzles in a certain way to really ensure that you have a consistent deck to succeed with. And it can be fun to lose, don't get me wrong, but maybe after like the 30th attempt with like an aggression deck or a protection deck at certain times, and I just couldn't get over the hump because of the lack of thwarting usually to get there. I just started wanting to play more fun decks, and I guess the turning point really has been recently where I built a really strong, I thought, protection Holt deck that was for one-handed, and someone really pointed out in the comments there that the deck really didn't have an identity as a protection deck. It was just like 18 basic cards and maybe like 7 green cards, because that's what was required to overcome the challenges we have in the game at the moment. And so I thought about that, and like I changed the deck back to like a really fun protection deck, and then I paired it with another deck, and I had a lot more fun doing that. And so that's been my experience, where like the deck building actually opened up, because there are cards and I guess combinations of efficiency that I can now do that True Solo didn't enable me to do. And that's not to say that True Solo isn't a playstyle. It's just that I've now found more enjoyment from going two-handed also, like you.
Yeah, and I think the time thing you brought up with solo play is a huge, like, good point, because some people, kids, family, work, they don't have a lot of time to, play two-handed because it's roughly twice the amount of time. So the true solo play is a much quicker experience.
Yeah, it's sort of like getting your fix for the day versus like I guess like committing to like I'm gonna play this for an hour, and mainly it's because I haven't played with another person in person since March, so that it's been 5 months since I've been able to play with someone else. So I guess that's part of the thing for me. Like I think if I had a local group I could go to and play, I wouldn't even be playing solo. It's more just because of my job and where I'm located that I couldn't go out and see other people, and then it kind of just snowballed from there. But yeah, it's been fun to explore. I guess that we should just probably touch on how did you find your deck building change when you moved to two-handed? You talked about more consistency and a few things like that. Did it alter your deck building at all when you switched to two-handed?
Yeah, I think it definitely changed my deck building a little bit. I think just as the game has grown, just my deck building style has evolved slightly from the beginning of the game. But it just opens up like more combinations. You know what I'm saying? Like you can inspire your other characters' allies, or you can enrage your leadership player. It opens up a lot more combinations in game. And then you can also cover weaknesses a lot easier without having to rely on a bunch of inefficient basic cards.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I mean by more consistent, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess like one of the big things is probably the threshold for removing threat. Kind of, you get 2 chances at it with 2 players, and so like you're saying, you can cut some of the less efficient cards in a solo deck, or even reduce the ally count a bit in the solo deck, and focus more on some of the more enjoyable dynamic events or supports that are in the game.
Right. Yep. What about you? How's your deck building changed?
Yeah, I think, like I said, like it's like the protection decks that use unflappable. I think are just a lot more enjoyable when you have a partner that can thwart a bit more, and you can kind of go even more all in on the defense counterpunch sort of route. Because if you're playing it solo, you often have to cut cards that are fun just to add in some thwart and like some thwart resilience. So it becomes an unfortunate situation where like you can do half of what that build wants to do. And similarly with aggression, like aggression, you just want to swing hard, but often you have to add a few threat removal cards that maybe you could otherwise cut if you were playing with a justice or leadership player. And I think it really showcases more the 4 hand size heroes. So like She-Hulk, Hulk, and Thor. I think you get a lot more return on your experience when you play them in multiplayer than solo. It's not to say they're not fun solo. It's just to say I think you can showcase what they do better when there's more people at the table.
I think that's a really good point because, like as you know, like I'm a really big fan of Thor. He's my favorite hero to play, but I've basically played only 2-handed with him since he came out. So my experience and results with Thor are completely different than someone that's trying to play him true solo all the time.
Yeah, like the card Get Over Here is a card that I actually enjoy using in a Thor multiplayer deck because it increases your ability to draw the 2 cards if you don't happen to get a minion in front of yourself. So I really like those like small little edge things that make it better. It makes it easier to explore the wider card pool. So I'm getting more value out of my products in a way. And I'm feeling more like the characters that they're implementing into the game.
Well, and it also just feels like, the game, it just feels more balanced and like a more intended experience in a multiplayer environment. So I think that's why it feels that way in 2-handed, because they're kind of made to play off each other and to make each other better, right?
Yeah. Like I guess like the Captain Marvel card draw and like the mansions and helicarriers work a bit better. But I guess like something we haven't really touched on is like we can talk about the player side being consistent, but really it's also the encounter deck gets a bit more like you said, I think you get the intended experience from a scenario more in multiplayer. And again, it's not to say that true solo doesn't provide an experience. I just think that experience is a bit more variable than what it is in multiplayer is the reality, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Because you go through the deck faster when you're playing with more people. So when you're playing in Claw, he's already going through his deck faster. So you're seeing those cards. When you play solo, true solo, unless you're playing heroic, there's times where you might not cycle the encounter deck at all, or even get through like half the deck sometimes if you're playing against Rhino, because his health is so low that you can get through him that fast. So it's like, and then also another problem with true solo is the stun lock decks I think are a big problem because you're almost cheesing it because you're not really playing the game. It's basically superhero solitaire at that point.
Yeah, I guess it can be fun to like build it and see what the potential is of each hero, but I think maybe Spider-Woman with her pheromones might showcase a little bit of a problem with what putting status tokens on a villain consistently will do to a game. But it's definitely something that like Confuse and Stun I think are actually really engaging mechanics, and they're just better served in multiplayer because often it has an impact on the table, but the villain still gets to activate. And I think that's a really important part of the game that the villain activates unless you spend a lot of resources like cards like Webbed Up to kind of negate that from happening a bit more than just a stun.
Right, but like you said, the investment in that, you need 5 cards basically to pull that off. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
That's basically your whole turn.
Yeah, I think I've read a few times that a lot of people don't seem to like that card. But I think it's really interesting in multiplayer if you play webbed up, and it's very thematic. I think like it comes back to theme where like you're Spider-Man and you web up the villain. Like it's a pretty cool moment to have in the game, I think, and the design on the card reflects that.
And also, I mean the stunning and the confuse and the tough, like those are good mechanics built into the game, but they lose their efficiency by like 50% for each person in addition to the true solo player. You know what I mean? It's like in a true solo game, a stunned villain, you're removing 100% of that activation. And a 2-player, that's, they can still activate that second time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for villains that have activate abilities, like you said, I think it kind of cheeses it a little bit, or kind of cheats the intention of the scenario a little bit if the entire villain mechanic is around activating. I guess the closest we have is Ultron. So like if you can stun lock Ultron, you're in a really good spot because he's not giving you the persistent drones that come out. So
and he's not buffing his own attack value then either.
Yeah. So you're kind of sidestepping a mechanic, which is, again, it's very creative of people that came up with the stun lock things, and like maybe stun is just a bit too available in the card pool with certain heroes. But yeah, it is nice in multiplayer where you still have the villain doing a little bit of what they're meant to do, and then you kind of have to fight back against that. Because I think something about scenario design that I think is really important is like providing tension. So even if you know at the start of a game that you're probably going to win that scenario with your, how strong you are as a hero, like, and like you know that your deck is capable of handling the scenario. If there's not the tension in that you could potentially lose, or like there are certain cards drawn in a certain order that might have a really high impact on your chance to win. If that's gone, like it becomes a bit anticlimactic to play the game. And that's what I found with Stunlock, is that it increased that chance that I had an anticlimactic experience with the game. And I don't want that. I want to have that little bit of tension that I'm not sure I'm going to win. And when you're playing with two, you're kind of like, I don't want you to die. I need to defend for you. And like, there's all these like additional things you have to think about. I've been really enjoying it, the two-handed play.
Good. Glad to hear it. Everyone should enjoy two-handed play.
Yeah. Or even better is if you have a friend that you can play with. But, it's just in these times. Yeah. In these times, it's a bit hard. Like when you play the Rise of Red Skull, are you planning on playing like the two heroes in the box together, or like what's your plan for approaching a campaign game? Are you going to play one-handed or two-handed?
I'm definitely going to play two-handed, and I'm definitely going to use Hawkeye, and then I might wait and see what we do at the draft. But if we do the campaign draft where you pick one of the two, Hawkeye's going to be my pick, and then I'll see what I draft for my second one. But if it was just me picking without doing the draft, it'd probably be Hawkeye and either Captain America or Thor.
Yeah, that'd be pretty...
Probably Thor.
That'd be a pretty cool combo, Thor and Hawkeye together. I guess like they were in the MCU, like, because Hawkeye's in the first Thor film from memory, right? So there's like a bit of theme there.
Yeah, he's like up in the like crane canopy thing, watching him try to lift the hammer in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be really fun to see what two-handed campaign play does, because I wonder how much that's going to alter the experience, like, or if there's things that scale by player count a bit more. Yeah, I think for me, I'm just gonna play the precons out of the box first and just see what the intended experience is like, and then once I do that, I'll probably just custom build with Hawkeye a ton, and let the really good deck builders figure out how to play Spider-Woman. I'm often a bit cheeky. I'm often a net decker with those things to start off with, and then I come to my own conclusions 6 to 12 months later.
I just think Spider-Woman's going to be a little harder to crack than people think, just because of her needing an equal amount of aspect cards. And there's like my mind goes so many places when I think of building for Spider-Woman that I can't like narrow it down because I want to do too many things. You know what I mean? I want all the combo plays.
Yeah,
I just you can't do it.
I think like you have to kind of pick a little bit between combination plays to boost her stats and combination of aspect cards that are just good. And sometimes they might be the same thing, and sometimes they might be a different thing. So like if you find a bunch of 0 and 1 cost cards that are really both synergistic but also can function as viable cards in her deck, she'll probably have a really good time. But if there's like an idea of like I want to combine these really expensive cards in aggression and these really expensive cards in justice, and I want to put them together to form this like really, janky combination, you might not get as much value out of her ability, but you'll have fun doing the combination play that you couldn't do otherwise, except perhaps out of a two-handed experience. And I guess Spider-Woman is actually a good thing to touch on with this topic, because I think she kind of provides that true solo player with a pseudo experience of two-handed, in that you can kind of shore up your weaknesses a bit. You just miss out on the second player's sort of like abilities, I guess. But I think it's like a good middle ground, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
Yeah. So when you say your mind races, like where is your mind at with Spider-Woman? Is there a card combination that you're wanting to work?
Yeah. It's vision, right? Enraged, inspired, teamwork. The whole get her up to like a 5 and then attack and then buff a vision and teamworker for like an 11. Like, and then ready her somehow, and do it again.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
Seems pretty crazy to think about. If you can get a hero up to 11 damage, like poor Hulk. That's all I'll say. Just
the Spider-Woman is gonna, and then if you got Yarnborn or something, you can mean swing and skilled strike it. So I mean, you could get up to like a 15 with Spider-Woman on like a basic attack if you teamwork a pumped vision,
Yeah.
And if you got enraged and inspired on him, it's even more. So you could probably get close to 20 on a basic attack if you get the combo in hand to do it.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I think Morale Boost is a card that goes quite well with her too, because I think from memory it lasts the entire round. So like if you play that, you get +2/+2 for the entire round. So like I think that's a fun card to include in her as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, my mind goes to leadership aggression, but it's like I just don't know if I'm going to be able to, like her ability on the equal number of aspect cards might make it harder to pull off than I want it to be, but we'll have to see when the box gets here.
Yeah, definitely something to experiment with. I wanted to just go back a little bit to the two-handed as well and ask you, are there any particular scenarios in mind that you feel are better for the fact that you're playing multiplayer? Like, is there any standouts where you're like, oh, actually, I really prefer this experience to what I was previously playing?
Claw, for sure, because he goes through the deck faster. So in our Scheme League Season 4 tiebreaker game, I'm playing Doctor Strange, Justice, and Aggression Thor. I went through the encounter deck twice. So like if I was playing solo, I might have only went through once maybe, So I like going through the encounter deck. I like getting the acceleration tokens. I like having a chance to see cards that got discarded as boosts or something before as encounter cards this time. I don't know. I like the villain to do what the villain's supposed to do. And I feel like the two-handed, you go through the deck faster. So I think Claw is one for sure that I enjoyed a lot more multiplayer. And Mutagen probably too, because then you're dealing with like 6 encounter cards when you flip them to stage 3. And that can get ridiculous because then you have like a monster and a goblin knight and 17 thralls popping out. So that can get pretty hectic.
Yeah, do you think it helps at all for those players that think that Risky Business or Wrecking Crew maybe aren't as strong of a scenario? Like, do you think playing multiplayer can improve that experience in either one?
For those two scenarios specifically, I think Heroic does more for them than maybe solo to multiplayer does. Like playing Wrecking Crew Heroic 1 feels like a really good scenario where you have that tension at times that you were talking about. Risky Business, I think, is still missing something. I don't know if Heroic 1 even really fixes that.
Yeah, I guess like I've heard a lot of people say that sometimes Risky Business can just be a good place to like a, what do you call it, like a playhouse, sort of like it's a place where you can just experiment with decks a little bit and work, especially combo decks, because you have a bit more time to like build up your combo. So like if you are deck building, you can just kind of fishbowl a little bit there and see if your idea is actually going to be worth implementing to try into some of the harder scenarios. So I think maybe that's the consideration for me personally. But I would tend to agree with you that I think heroic kind of helps the Wrecking Crew if you are wanting that additional challenge. If you just want to beat up on some dudes, I think standard or expert's fine. But if you are wanting to like push that experience, I think heroic also does help there, like you said.
Two-handed makes lockjaw even better. I don't
That's
know.
true.
I had to get lockjaw in, so that was my chance.
Yeah, does it make She-Hulk better? I would say yes as well. Like if we're going to talk about community favorites, I think She-Hulk. She-Hulk gets better in multiplayer.
The ally or the hero? Because the
actually both. Yeah,
both get better.
Yeah, that's true. I think anyone with a lower hand size gets better when you can add additional mansions to their play or additional opportunities to card draw. And interestingly, I think it showcases more what a hero's potential is once you can ramp them above what their preset hand size is. Particularly Hulk and particularly Thor, because She-Hulk has an ability to card draw and she has some like finicky weird things to like bring Hellcat back to hand and like all that stuff. But Hulk and Thor, I feel, do better by just being given more cards.
Right, and that's why I think like with Thor, I mean, the way I look at it is I don't look at his hand size as like as a 5'4". I see it as a 5'6". I'm not gonna go play Thor solo against Rhino because I know I'm only gonna see like 2 minions before the game's over, you know. So, and if I am playing Rhino, then I adjust the modular sets that I have a better chance of seeing in minions, you know. I don't know. I don't think the hand size on Thor is as much of a detriment because he does draw so much. But I'm only playing two-handed with him, and I'm usually playing scenarios that give me minions. So
yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. I think that he should be considered 6 if you're playing, because like his ability triggers each phase. So like I would tend to agree that the idea of him is that, and the reason he's actually quite strong is that you can get 2 in the villain phase, and then if you have a way to get a minion out in the player phase, whether that be via a scenario mechanic, so like if you kill the advanced drone in Ultron and it spawns another drone,
right,
or get over here, or you play Defender of the Nine Realms. That's the classical one. But like that gives you a net. You increase your hand size by either 1 or 2, depending on how you get that extra minion out into play. And like that's where he becomes a 7 hand, like he becomes like Iron Man. He has like a 7 hand size, which is like really strong. So maybe that's
right.
Maybe that's just something that like it's interesting because this is the first time I've really talked about it with someone. But maybe that's what is going on there with Thor, is that the opportunity to showcase that isn't being as publicly discussed or displayed. Because I tend to agree with you. Like if someone said to me, this hero, especially once I have Asgard down, this hero is an 8/6, I would tell you that that's very powerful, even if it is putting minions into play. Because Hammer Throw, smoothly resolves that conflict with having a minion out.
Right, and then you have 2 God of Thunders, right? So you're increasing your available resources by 2 at that point also. So you're almost playing with 10 resources sometimes, you know, and that's without helicarriers. And I don't really play with mansions anymore. I just use helicarrier and queen carriers.
So what you're telling me is that you can get Lockjaw out and do something else with your turn. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. You can get Lockjaw out turn 1 and God of Thunder and Mjolnir if you do it right.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough. You have to draw the perfect hand to open with to do that, but it can be done.
A 3-card combo. Yeah, I used to get ridiculed in Destiny for talking about 2-card combos. So I don't know about 3-card combos.
I mean, a 3-card combo in a 40-card deck is definitely not going to happen as often as a 2-card combo in a 30-card deck.
Yeah, but it still sounds fun. Like I'm sold on that combination there. Yeah, it's a really good point, and I think that's a key differential between what Thor can do and Hulk, because Hulk is so linear and his resource curve is so flat that you don't get that moment that Thor provides, where there's no moment in Hulk where you draw up like a larger hand size and can like do this crazy turn. Like the best you can do is like you know like draw into like ready him and then draw into the triple resource and then Hulk smash afterwards, sort of thing. Like right now with the card pool, it's a bit harder to, I guess, min max him as to how you'd like. And yeah, I guess that's the key difference I find between Thor and Hulk.
And I just think like my Thor, like the reason I like Thor so much, like I said, I think just comes from me playing him two-handed. So I'm not playing him solo against like heroic Rhino like some people are trying to do, you know. If I'm playing heroic Rhino with Thor, I'm playing him with another character. So I think my experience is skewed versus someone who just plays him solo.
Do you think that once we move a bit further into a wider scenario pool, like after the rise of Red Skull and Kang, do you think the approach that you're taking will become a bit more like standard? Like people will pick heroes based on like good matchups. So like you'll take Thor in the scenarios where you know that there's going to be a higher minion density and other considerations. Like, do you think that's a positive element to add to the game where you're like, oh, like this hero actually would be really good here. Let's give Thor a go, sort of thing?
I think some people could do that if they want to like power game it and like say that they, you know, beat every scenario on the hardest difficulty possible, heroic 17, where they're going to take the best matchup. I just take Thor because I like his design and he's fun for me to play, you know. So like it could be a year down the road and I still think Thor is probably going to be my favorite to play, you know, just because I like him as a character. I like his comics. I just like him. I like his hero design. So that's why I pick him. I don't necessarily pick him because he's the best for whatever scenario. But I'm sure there are people that do that because they want to shout from the mountaintop that they beat that scenario on the hardest difficulty they could.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to get, like you said, like with Rhino, you're less likely to play Thor like true solo. Like so is how much is the minion density factoring into your like ability to play him? Like, is that actually a make or break thing, or is that just more like I know I'm not going to get value out of this side of him, this game, sort of thing?
Yeah, it's just I know I'm not going to get the value there because Rhino has 4 printed minions in his deck, so I mean his deck isn't that big either, but the odds of you seeing it unless you're playing heroic are pretty low,
Right.
especially in a solo game. In a two-handed game, it's not as big of an issue because I'm seeing twice the amount of encounter cards. And like I said, the modular sets help that too. You know, if you're playing goblin gimmicks and you're not adding any minions. And then Claw only has 5 printed minions in his encounter deck, but it's just because the double boost on the attacks, and then you have the weapons runner that like come into play as a boost ability. It makes it seem like he's more minions in his deck. So, but Rhino is really the only one that doesn't, and Wrecking Crew, but Wrecking Crew doesn't have a lot of minions either. But
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point about that. And the unfortunate thing with Wrecking Crew is that you can't increase the density of minions in that scenario. Otherwise, I think that'd be a good consideration. I guess coming back to, I know we're focusing on Thor. Like the theme this week is Thor. But like, have you found with your two-handed play that it's like, have you experimented with almost all the aspects, or like have you just narrowed in on one, or like what's been that journey for giving you the potential to explore those aspects now that you're playing two-handed? Like have you tried Protection Thor, which I know previously was a bit more challenging to get working in solo play?
I've tried all the aspects with Thor. I prefer Thor Aggression just because I like that from the get-go he's just dealing lots of damage like from round 1. I think people maybe that don't have a good experience with Thor also are wasting too much time setting up. I don't think you need to waste the setup time with Thor. He's a 3 attack from the get-go. Like you can just use that to get going. But I have tried like all the aspects with Thor, and Aggression is my favorite. Justice, I know people like for solo because it helps the thwarting out, but Justice is my least favorite aspect personally, so I don't really enjoy playing Justice all that much. Leadership, just like you can make it work with Thor, it just feels kind of weird But I think protection Thor is really good right now, but I still prefer aggression just because that's my favorite aspect, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a really good positive that now, especially in two-handed play, you you don't have the comment of like you should be playing this aspect instead. Like you can just say, for theme, I really want to play this paired with this. Like I've seen a lot of players ask about Hulk aggression, and they're really wanting to like deep dive into how do you best form this like raging Hulk that's going to bash things up. And in solo, it's a real challenge. I think it's a really difficult thing to do well and consistently. I just think the card pool isn't there to really support it on expert, that is. But in two-handed, you can build that raging Hulk and feel like that Hulk a lot easier because you can have a partner that can do the thwarting, and that really evens it out. I find.
Right. It comes back to balance, and consistency.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't ready for the Zen. Can't disagree with it though. So,
that's what I'm known for is my Zen.
Yeah, just the calm and tranquil Bananacrapshoot. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being a part of that discussion. Is there any final thoughts you wanted to share about your experience with two-handed?
Just that everyone should play two-handed. Just grab both those decks, and it's more enjoyable than one.
Yeah.
Now, this whole game's about having fun, right? So if true solo is more fun for you, like, don't take this the wrong way that like we're saying you're stupid or anything. Like, you do what's enjoyable for you, right? We're just a discussion about how this is more enjoyable for me, I guess, and other two-handed players.
Yeah, I think it's just something to consider if you're finding that true solo is, presenting barriers or walls. It's kind of why we wanted to talk about it this week. Is just I've just seen a lot of comments lately about maybe a little bit of frustration or some unhelpful advice as to how to approach solo play with certain heroes, and I thought that two-handed kind of addresses a lot of the concerns or problems that I saw arising. So yeah, it was great to have you on with it. It's been a pleasure as always, Josh. So thank you so much for joining the podcast this week. And just, do you want to remind listeners where they can find all your great content?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. This was a blast. You can find us wherever you can listen to podcasts. Just search for The Side Scheme. You can find us on Facebook, Discord, the YouTubes. We're all over the place.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that everyone can kind of engage with your next draft and listen to your next podcast. I know you've had a few design interviews. That's been great to listen to. And you guys have covered some really interesting topics alongside a recent spoiler. So thanks for all the content you're doing. And hopefully we can have you back on soon. So thanks so much for your time, Josh.
Yep, anytime.